Jupiter's 4 large moons. The moons of Jupiter are called the Galilean moons. The names for each moon are called Io, Ganymede, Europa, and Callisto. Galileo discovered 4 moons in January 1610. Galileo's greatest discovery was that the Earth rotated around the sun. He would make his own telescopes. Even though Galileo was correct about the Earth rotating around the sun, he was arrested and he had to stay in his house for the rest of his life because people thought that everything revolved around the Earth. Galileo is interesting because he was interested in astronomy and discovered many things. Galileo discovered the 4 moons of Jupiter in January 1610. The moons are called the Galilean moons. Galileo's greatest discovery was that the Earth revolves around the sun. He was sent to stay in his house for the rest of his life. So now you know more about Galileo Galilei. He was curious, wondrous, and intelligent.
Yay! Nice work, Chloe. Good job, good job. I really liked that. You structured it really well, and that was a good informative paper. Nice work. That's really all I wanted to do. So this will be under welcome, so it's the very first thing in the classwork tab. And if you open it up, I've got some instructions here. So there are 3 prompts, one for each of the 3 units. The word is unit. One for each of the 3 units that we covered in this class. So the persuade one is to write a paper using that same 4 or 5 paragraph structure where you start with an intro and then have your body paragraphs and then a conclusion. And this one's to think of a problem at your school. What causes the problem? What bad things happen because of it? What should be done to fix it? As a concerned student, write a persuasive essay describing the problem, suggesting a solution, and convincing your principal to take action. So this is if the problem at your school is that the school lunches are disgusting. You can explain exactly why they're disgusting, what should be done to fix it, why it's important that the school changes the lunches to something better. You can use ethos, logos, and pathos to persuade your reader in that way. It's the persuade one. Another option is inform, where you're going to write about somebody who made an impact on your life. So any one important person in your life and explaining why they are important to you. Tell us about this person. Inform us about this person. And the biggest thing for this one is to remember to write a thesis in your introduction. And the third one is entertain. So the creative writing prompt is to imagine what would happen if somebody shrunk you down to only 1 inch tall. It's about that big. And write a story explaining what happens next. So remember to use figurative language and the plot structure that we talked about. So start with exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. Those are your 3 options.
Triangle ABC has a right angle at B. Okay. Point D is the foot of the altitude from B. AD is equal to 3. DC is equal to 4. What is the area of ABC? As always, try to question yourself. BD, we don't know what that is. But notice that if we did know what that was, then the question would be solved. Because if you rotate this slightly, you notice that ABC has the altitude of BD and has a base length of AC, which is 7. And so, from the equation we learned previously, base times height divided by 2, as long as I can find the height, I'm done, right? So, let's do that. What is BB? I don't know. If I don't know something, I give it a letter. Let's call this letter Y, okay? Because we've already used X. This is 3, this is Y, this is Y, this is 4. From here, we know that corresponding sides have to be in the same ratio, right? That's the entire point of this, right? So we have 3 divided by y is equal to y divided by 4. And now, this is an equation that we can solve, right? 12 is equal to y squared. Math counts will generally require you to simplify all your square roots. So they're going to ask you for y is equal to 2 times the square root of 3. Notice that the square root of 12 is just the same thing as the square root of 4 times 3, which is just 2 times the square root of 3. Right? So this is the altitude, 2 root 3. The base is nothing but 3 plus 4, and that's 7. So what's the area? Finally, the area of ABC is equal to nothing but the base times the height. So 7 times 2 root 3 divided by 2, that is 7 root 3.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create the MIDI region for my second instrument right here. The second way that you can do it is to directly drag the first track by hitting Option, drag down here. I'm gonna use the same chord progression, but at the same time only changing the tone of it by moving up 2 notes. Let's see what it sounds like. That doesn't sound like the exact sound that I want. So I'm gonna keep experimenting until I find my perfect tone. Feel free to try out different sound within your sound library.
Because if they're representing another voice, then you need to think differently about what the tone is. Because say that my question, the tone of the phrase, a beautiful plan, is when the author is talking about how my opponent claims that what they're doing is going to be a beautiful plan for our city, or something like that. That's going to have a different tone than if the author themselves is talking about this plan that they don't approve of, which would probably be discussed. So be aware of the point of view and whether the author is using the voice of themselves or the voice of their opponent or someone else who has another perspective. So
you see it?
Yeah.
So like I was saying, this demo right here, it has to be exactly the same as whatever is before .java in that specific file. Otherwise, it just won't work. For example, if it's off by 1 character, error. And that's what I love about IntelliJ. It'll tell you errors like that pretty quickly too. Yeah, that's the first thing. After public class, the name of this first large class should be the largest class in the file. It should be exactly the same as whatever is before .java. The next thing, if we just go on to the second line, we have this public static void nonsense. Well, it's not nonsense, it means something, but we'll get into that later. The main thing we're concerned about is this word main right here. The word main is telling the computer, everything inside main, that's exactly what I want to run. For example, if you like name this something different, like off by 1 letter, it grays out, and if I run this, well, I can't even run it because there's no main method. Your computer, IntelliJ Java will only run if you have a main method, and it'll only run everything that is in this main method, or try to run everything in this main method. So this main is actually very important right here. And everything in this main method, by everything in it, I mean everything after in between these two curly braces. These two curly braces, everything in like this little section will be ran. You'll notice that you can put stuff out here too. That won't run because it's not in the main method. Yes, this is called a method. And this string args, later we'll learn that this is denoting an array of strings. This is actually an input. It's not really part of the function that we're concerned with, especially not for main. You don't usually have an input for it. There's alternatives you can do, like instead of an array, you can do like that. But conventionally, you put an array of, it stands for a string array of arguments, basically. And it'll run whatever's in here. So in here, we have system.out.println. That is our basic printing function that we use. It'll print out anything in between the two parentheses, so long as it's correctly formatted. For words, if you want to print out specific words, such as hello and world, you need to put the entire thing within double quotes, otherwise it doesn't work, for reasons I'll get into later. If you want to print out numbers, you can actually put a number like 3. It'll print out 3. Or if you, for numbers, because it recognizes numbers as integers, you can just put the number 3 in there. But we're going to stick with hello world for now. Another thing important about Java is semicolons.
So, all right, so there is as I said, there is actually a problem with this code as it is. Does anyone think they know what the problem is yet? All right, so I will tell you. The problem is we have made comp choice an integer, right? Because we said it's equal to some random number from this function here. So comp choice is a number. And then we used it as an index here in choices. So we said choices, whatever is that index, comp choice. But then down here, I suddenly started assuming that it's a letter like R or P or S. This is the same variable as before, but now I'm using it as if it was a string and comparing it equal to strings. So that's not going to go well. So if comp choice was an integer, it would probably run fine up to here, and then at which point it would try to compare a number with a string, and we would get confused. It would give you a type error most likely. So to fix that, I think the best way to do that, or to address this problem, would be to make both comp choice and player choice a consistent data type, because player choice and these have, like, I named them very similarly. You know, this is the computer underscore choice, and this is player underscore choice. So I think, you know, they should probably, you would expect them to be the same thing, or the same type of thing. So instead of making comp choice a number, well, I think we should make it the choice, like from the actual list. So like, kind of like how we did down here. So instead of just making it equal to some random number, we'll make this random number, but then we'll get that index from choices. So like this, choices, add this bracket, add that bracket. So what I've done is basically the same thing here. I just put choices, comp choice equals choices, square bracket, random.random, and then added a square bracket at the end. So this will generate the random number first. It'll take that number and then look at that index in choices. So remember that choice is a list with those indices 0, 1, and 2. So index 0, index 1, index 2. So it'll take that random number and it will look at whatever is at that index in choices. And then it will take that letter and then put that letter into comp choice. So now both player choice and comp choice are like they're like, you know, together. They're similar. They're both letters So now, and then because I did that change, I should remove this. Now it's just comp choice. We know that comp choice should be a letter of some sort, so we can concatenate them or join them together without needing to convert it or anything.